We have a pretty busy schedule today, so we'll get started right here on time. And as people join, we'll just let them catch up. The meeting today will be recorded. That's a reminder to Becky Peters to start the recording when we get going. The materials will be made afterwards. Just as a point of housekeeping, I did not schedule because we had such a busy agenda today, a comfort break. But as I said, the meeting is recorded. The materials will be shared with you afterwards. So if you need to take a comfort break, please feel free anytime you need to. We'll just start by introducing myself. My name is Max Lang. I work here at USBE. Under our team is called ERSI. We're the ESEA and federal programs and related state initiatives. We have a number of our team here on our meeting today. And if those folks would turn their camera on and wave so you can put a name to a face, we won't have everybody stop and introduce themselves, but you can see their faces and you can see their names. Okay, let's get started. I'll take a look at the agenda here together. So, welcome and introductions. I'm going to spend a little time this morning just going through setting a direction. And then we have some of our colleagues here from USBE, really grateful to get a piece of their time today. As you know, here in the next couple of months, you'll be completing the preliminary application. And in that application, there are pieces that talk about transfer of funds. There are a number of you who transfer Title IV and Title II funds into Title I. And oftentimes we see that that's just been a tradition for your LEA to do that without actually knowing what those two title programs are for. So Jody Parker and Katie Jones are going to take some time to clarify what those are. One item that comes up often when we're out visiting LEAs and visiting schools is a problem of practice or a problem with absenteeism. We actually have a couple of people on our staff here at USBE. Megan Menlove has agreed to be here today and share some of the resources and some of the activities that are going on at a state level with absenteeism and truancy prevention. Another thing I've noticed as we've been out visiting you this year is that there are still some of you who do not have access to the ESEAnow.com resource. So Ryan's going to come in and talk to you a little bit about what's in that resource and then how you gain access to it and some of those procedures that are involved. And then as time allows, we have been meeting and talking with some of you about certain expenditures through requests for reimbursement that have been questionable, or we have asked questions or further documentation about those. So I'm going to spend some time talking about allowability under Title I. And then in line with that, as we're heading into summer and towards the end of the fiscal year, I want to remind you and talk a little bit about excess carryover and the waiver that's allowed there. I want to spend some time here at the end of the day putting in a plea for some new members of the Title I Committee of Practitioners, what that Committee of Practitioners is for, what we have done in the past, and then some certain members that we're really putting out a plea that we need a couple of members in there. And then we'll celebrate at the end of the day the National ESEA Distinguished Schools Recognition for the 26 school year. And then we'll wrap up. And then those of us here at USB who can, will hang on. And if you have certain questions that are specific to your LEA, or you have questions that are specific to a school that are around Title I or federal programs, we'll hang around and we can talk those through. Okay, just for context, all of us are involved that are in this meeting with Title I Part A. It shows up on your weekly, daily, monthly agenda. Let's just set a context for it. Title I is under the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA as it's currently reauthorized as. And the title of it is Improving the Academic Achievement of the Disadvantaged. Disadvantage is a broad term. Congress allocates funds to implement this particular title. And the disadvantage they've defined and allocated funding towards are those students, areas, schools, districts, charters who have high numbers and percentages of students experiencing low income. The statement of purpose for the title is to provide all children significant opportunity to receive a fair, equitable, high quality education and to close educational achievement gaps. For next year and this year, Congress has approved and allocated just around $18 billion for the country. So, an announcement, we have received the preliminary allocations this year. They came out on time. We are currently working through some adjustments to those to take into consideration our charter LEAs and to provide preliminary allocations to all LEAs. And just as a reminder, what the Department of Education uses to calculate allocations to states is based on district LEA boundaries and Census Bureau information. So responses from surveys on the Census Bureau. That is, it's on a 2-year lag, but it's calculated through 4 statutory grant formulas. So each calculation is done independent by district LEA, and their aggregate is that LEA's allocation. The aggregate of each of those district LEA's allocation is the allocation that the state receives. So that's what Utah receives. And just as a quick reminder, the basic, those are the requirements, the eligibility requirements to receive funding under the basic grant. Targeted is a little more, it's 5% of your LEA enrollment considered by federal definition to be economically disadvantaged. Concentration, at least 6,500 students or 15%. And then the Educational Finance Incentive Grant, otherwise known as EFIG, it meets the basic grant and it measures a state's financial effort compared to relative wealth. That's an overview of how those calculations are done. If you want to go deeper, I put a link in there to the congress.gov website, and it goes very extensively into how each of those funding formulas are calculated. So this is where we are this year. So this current school year, 25-26, we received from the previous year a $20 million increase in Title I dollars. The projected allocation for the state for 26-27 is 893,107. So as you see, there was an increase from the previous year to this current year, and from this year to next year, there's about a $7.2 million decrease. The point of this slide is to say, Title I allocations fluctuate, sometimes quite drastically. Those of you who were around in the 22-23 year working in Title I know that we received a $13 million decrease. There were a couple of LEAs who received substantially less dollars. All of that planning, it gets a little tougher when the amounts fluctuate. But I show this slide to demonstrate that it always does. It's not always consistent. We can't depend on the allocations from one year to the next. This next slide is one that I've showed just about every meeting we've had, and it's a continuous improvement cycle. So this is the way we utilize funds. These are things that we're going to do in our schools, in our LEAs, regardless of funding that's available. This is the one we use primarily through school improvement here at the state, but we've implemented it and adopted it in Title I in our team as well for federal programs. Setting the direction. What is our vision for our school, for our LEA? What is our mission? What do we agree to do? Step 2, a very important one, assessing the needs, conducting comprehensive needs assessments, taking a look not only at the academic growth and achievement data, but all of those other things that might impact that academic growth and achievement data. Could be curriculum, it could be instruction, it could be attendance, All of those things are part of a comprehensive needs assessment. Where academically are we high? Where academically are we low and need to pay attention to? Then we always suggest a root cause analysis. Why are those things academically high? What's happening that makes those things successful? Why are we low? What specifically is impacting those areas academically that are causing students to not be able to grow academically and achieve the way they should? And then you create a plan. What strategies are we going to implement based on our comprehensive needs assessment, root cause analysis, that are going to provide those strategies, supports to students, staff, and the community that are going to make an impact? At this point, you know what you need to do. How are you going to fund it? This is where you take a look at your resource allocations. After you've created your plan, this is where Title I and other funding sources come in. Title I is a supplemental resource. Now, I know I say that out of one side of my mouth, and then we're going to talk about certain things you must spend those funds on and certain things you should not spend those funds on. But keep in mind, it is there to close achievement gaps for all students. We're funded based on numbers and percentages of students identified as economically disadvantaged, but then we can use Title I funds to implement for all. And just a couple members of my team, just another housekeeping. If there are comments in the chat, or if you have a comment you need to make and come off mute, please let me know. So that's our direction today. We're going to spend some time talking about a couple of other funding sources, federal funding sources, that are also used to improve the educational experience of students. There are resources that have targeted uses, but if you find through your needs assessments and your plan developments that these funding sources fit the bill, you may have them available to use specifically for the areas that you've identified. I'm going to turn the time over to Jody Parker, who's going to talk about Title IV. And Jody, you let me know if you want me to just drive the slides or if you'd like to take over the screen.
Thanks, Max. Sure. If you have them here, you can just keep on going and I'll let you know when to go. That's great. Hi, everyone. My name is Jody Parker. I am the Title IV Part A State Coordinator. See some faces or names in here that I know you are also responsible for Title IV Part A. For those of you that I don't know yet, you have a different person that is over 4A, or you are using one of the firms, and maybe you transfer the funds back into one. But I wanted to give you some of the nuance between Title I, Title IV Part A, and then Katie will talk about Title II. While Max was speaking, I'm like, oh, I can pull these numbers too. So Title IV Part A nationally gets $1,380,000,000 dollars. So that's the total nationally. Utah, of that, this year received 6,693,000. So significantly less than the total for Title I. Title 4A is a formula grant as well, and it goes off the same formula as Title I. So whatever your percentage of Title I is, that is your same percentage in Title IV. Part A. We are getting an increase though next year. So we also have our preliminary numbers. So we're getting $670,379 more than we did last year. So our total will be $7,363,379. As Max was talking about, we also saw, because we are under the same formula, we saw some decreases with some of our LEAs after that 2020 census. And it was painful. It was absolutely painful for some of those LEAs that took really significant hits. Because again, we follow the prior year, Title I, whatever y'all are seeing in your Title I allocations, that's what you're going to see the next year in 4, because we follow the prior year Title I. Okay, so with that little bit of overview, I was a classroom teacher for 10 years. I taught middle school in Weaver School District. So I love questions. If at any point as I'm going along you all have a question or there's something that you want to add to the conversation, just come off mute and interrupt me. As a middle school teacher, like that's how we flow, right? Those kids interrupt us all the time. So I would love this to be engaging and interactive and ask questions as you have. I can see the chat, so you can type there too, and I can answer on the fly. Okay, next screen, or next slide, please. So this is a very, very broad overview of the summaries between the difference between Title I, Title II, and Title IV Part A. So Title I, Max just did a really great job of the purpose, and as you all know what it does. Title II is going to be more of our teacher leaders, our leaders in the school. Katie's going to do a really good job of explaining this as well, but I wanted to put it all on one screen so you can kind of see the nuance. So Title I is like our system, our whole school system. Title II is our educators and our leaders in the building. But Title IV Part A is our students. So your buckets kind of change in this way. So Title 4A is all about what is the outcome for the student. It goes all the way down to the student level on this particular one. So it's our access to well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, and the effective use of technology and digital literacy of all students. So this is a very specific for student grant. Next slide, please. So, very simply put, the purpose of Title IV Part A is to increase educational equity and opportunities for all students by providing students with access to well-rounded education, improving school conditions for student learning, that's our safe and healthy piece, and improving the use of technology in order to support academic achievement and digital literacy. Next slide. So how do we break this up? We break it up into our three goal areas. So this is the opportunity for educational excellence for each Utah student by ensuring the equity of educational opportunities and cultural responsive practices to promote each student's academic success and well-being. If you have an award of over $30,000, you need to include each of the allowable activities. So well-rounded educational opportunities, you have to have 20% minimum of your whole total. Where we see a lot of issues is the budget takes your indirect cost, and so then you're doing 20% of the rest of the money, so minus indirect cost. That's not how that 20% works. It is of your entire total. Safe and healthy, has the same minimum of 20% that has to be used in safe and healthy students, and then effective use of technology is a portion. There is no percentage on that. It is literally just in statute says a portion. You all define that. If your award is under $30,000, then you have to choose one of those activities. You can do two and you can do all three if you want. But the requirement is one of those activities. The minimum in Title IV Part A, Title 4A does have a minimum. It is $10,000, so no LEA will ever receive less than $10,000 for Title IV Part A. I'm ready now. Thank you. So here are some examples of well-rounded educational opportunities. So you can use that 20% minimum portion under well-rounded for college and career guidance, counseling programs, programs that support the arts, programs that improve engagement in STEM, improve student achievement and accelerated learning, promote programs. And by the way, these are all things that Utah is using. So yes, it's in our statute, but I also went and pulled some of the action plans from applications and added some of them here too. So these are actual uses, what your LEAs are actually using these funds for. So promote programs to teach social studies, foreign language, environmental education, volunteerism, community involvement. Support activities that integrate multiple content areas, such as combining literacy and health, or mathematics and art. And just a little FYI, we have an entire content integration page on USBE's website that connects all K through 6 content standards, all 7 core areas of instruction, and we give you those intentional integration. So if this is something that you would like to work on, we have tools, and I am happy to connect anyone to those tools for more content integration in our elementary classrooms. Shameless plug there. Um, and then any subject determined by the state or local education agency with the purpose of providing all students access to enriched curriculum and educational experience. Next slide. Safe and healthy students. So this one is to foster safe, healthy, supportive, and drug-free environments that support student academic achievement, which may include evidence-based. Every single one of those has a state statute. So there is a requirement in our state laws that require evidence-based programs in all of those things. Not all of them are funded, though. Title IV Part A can help you with that. School-based mental health services and awareness training for staff. Programs and activities that integrate health and safety practices into school and athletic programs. Programs and activities that support healthy, active lifestyles, including nutritional education, regular structure physical activity programs, evidence-based bullying harassment programs. Sorry, I'm going to pause on that one. So, our bullying, harassment, substance abuse, suicide, there's a block grant for all of that. It just may not be enough. So you can supplement that funding for the block grant on prevention. You can supplement that funding with 4A if it is not enough for your school. Sorry, I want to pause there. Just because we do have state funding for these things, it's just in a block grant. And when they put it into a block grant, we have found a lot of LEAs that it's not enough funding for what you want to do and what your schools may need. So this could supplement that. And a lot of our LEAs do that, and they do it beautifully. Okay, so monitoring, provide mentoring and school counseling, high quality training for suicide prevention, trauma informed practices, crisis management, conflict resolution, and then school wide positive behavior interventions and supports, which is maybe one of the most common uses for, say, the safe and healthy goal is those PBIS plans. So, next slide, please. Effective use of technology. So this is, I really want to stress that this is the effective use of technology and not purchase of technology. It's how we use the technology, not getting more technology. In a minute, I'll go over, there's a special rule when you do need more technology of how that, the limitation there. But so this is providing educators or leaders with the tools, devices, and content and resources to professional learning to improve the academic achievement. So we can train our educators in how to use technology better. We can build technological capacity, so we can purchase some, but again, there's a limit. I'll go over that one in just another slide. Developing or using effective and innovative strategies for rigorous academic courses, blended learning projects, and providing students in rural, remote, underserved areas resources for high quality digital learning experiences and access to online courses. During one of the coolest parts, and this was a braided funding opportunity, but getting like Starlink and things on school buses for our rural kiddos that have very long commutes. This has been used and it's very effective. So our kiddos that are on buses for extended periods of time have access to internet and can do homework or other things as they're going home and can utilize that time, which is an allowable use. Next slide, please. So what you maybe saw with all of those examples of how for a what is allowable, and by the way, these are only like very small samplings of what's allowable. The sky's kind of the limit on this. So this little image here, right, the little figure doing a backbend. 4A is all about flexibility, and our federal program officer says all the time that 4A is the yes grant. Yes, you can. There are very, very few exceptions to what 4A cannot do. It cannot build, it cannot buy food, and it cannot buy dangerous weapons. Archery and PE is not a dangerous weapon. They wrote a letter about that, so that one's fine. But it can't purchase firearms for your staff. That's about it. And then, as all ESSA funds, you cannot supplant. So we can't take money from something else that we're using and switch it to 4A. You can supplement those funds, like I mentioned on the prevention block grant. It may not be enough money, so you can supplement with 4A. You just can't switch and supplant to 4A. But 4A is a yes grant. We really can do all these things that maybe we have gaps in our schools. 4A can help with those things. And then on to the special rule for technology. Next slide. So there's a 15% rule. So all LEAs, if you have more than $30,000, you have to have a portion of funds spent in technology. So whatever you are using in technology, so say you're using $1,000 of technology, only 15% of that can be used on the hardware, software, and infrastructure. So it's a 15% rule. So whatever your total pot that you are going to use in effective use of technology, only 15% of that pot that you have allocated to technology can be used for the infrastructure side. So it's kind of a wonky little piece. You do 100% of your tech funds towards the infrastructure. Um, there are cases, so we have seen some of our smaller LEAs, and they use all of their funds for like Chromebooks. That one we can do because it's a one-to-one student, and that's under well-rounded educational opportunities. It's really interesting, kind of the nuance there. But that was a question that was asked to the feds, and they answered that question that one-to-one devices are not considered infrastructure, but like a mobile Chromebook lab that goes into a classroom is considered infrastructure. More Wi-Fi routers in school, that's infrastructure. So it's really interesting how they break those apart. Some of you on this call might have said, well, we used all of ours for Chromebooks. Yes, that was allowable because those are one-to-one student devices. So that is kind of the difference on that I wanted to bring up. Okay, next slide. So are the program objectives in Title 4A is to increase opportunities for our underrepresented groups, including female students, minority English language learners, children with disabilities, economically disadvantaged students, and students in rural and underserved areas. So that is the program objective to this. This was a bipartisan opportunity when they added in 4A in 2018. And this was the objective for the funding when they added this grant. So, or this program. So, just want to bring that into your attention. And next slide. So, when you are doing your comprehensive needs assessment, you are required to have a planning team of stakeholders. And keeping those program objectives from that last slide in mind. These are the people that should be in that needs assessment planning. So whether it's through surveys or other electronic means to gather the input of all of these people, or it's an in-person meeting, community council meetings, things like that. These are the people that need to be consulted when you are deciding how you are going to utilize your funds, including transferring your funds. So, however you are going to use your Title IV Part A funds, these are the people that need to be consulted for that plan with these funds. Parents, teachers, principals, school leaders, specialized instructional support personnel, students. One of my favorite things that our federal program officer has said that has stuck with me in my 6 years now running this program is that students are a stakeholder because remember this particular grant, this program is at the student level. It is the how do we improve the outcomes of students? If we're going to improve outcomes for students, we need to do things with students, not to students. We need student voice if we're going to improve student outcomes. And I loved that. I don't know, I can't see everyone. I don't know if Tintic School District is here, but they used a sub grant, Stronger Connections grant, which is under Title IV Part A. It was a one-time funding opportunity, but they used that in their most rural West Desert school. which is a P12 school. I believe Superintendent Thornock told me that there are 26 students this year. We met the single kindergarten student and spent a little time talking with that single kindergarten student. But they designed some inclusive physical activity space in the middle of the desert. And their first design, the fourth grade teacher was like, "Ooh, I don't know," and brought the plan to the students. And the students redesigned the entire area because the first plan isn't what the students there needed. That is what this is about. And so the students got to have a voice in how this space for physical activity would help them and would benefit the students at that school. That is what the student stakeholder actually means. Is it's not building something for the student, creating something for the students, right? So when I say building, I don't mean like pouring cement. I mean like building a program. Um, it's not building a program to students, it's building it with them. And that is the most beautiful example of student engagement that I have seen in my 6 years. So, Tintic, if you're on here, kudos. They did such a great job. So, and then community-based organizations need to be there if they're involved in this. Local government representation, tribal leaders. When that is part of your group, we have a lot of tribal communities in Utah that are connected to our districts, and then any other relevant demonstrated expertise for your program. So if you're going to do something around like school safety, your law enforcement probably needs to be involved in that. And next slide, please. I'm almost done, I promise. Okay, so consultation with private schools. Max, I'm sure you're going to go over this in more detail, and I know that you probably have multiple times. I'm just going to be very specific with the Title IV Part A part. When I've been doing my monitoring, so I do site monitoring just like everyone else. And I find that when our Title IV-A person in the school is not also connected to Title I, when they're not also the grant manager for Title I, the consultation and equitable services may not be happening very well. So those of you that are doing that consultation with your private schools, please, I encourage you to get with your Title IV Part A people too and ensure that that consultation takes place with 4A as well. And that's been kind of an ongoing issue that I've seen come up over and over again. But before y'all can transfer funds into Title I or Title II, that consultation with private schools needs to happen specific to the Title IV Part A funds. So it's during the needs assessment, the private schools they're one of your stakeholders. And then determining the goals and the funding priorities, your private schools need to be part of that decision too. And then you all know this, but equitable service is not giving them a portion of the funding, it's including them in the services, the professional learning, or the materials. But please, please make sure that the Title IV Part A conversation is part of that consultation. So, okay. Thank you. Next slide. So I mentioned the comprehensive needs assessment a little bit earlier. Title IV Part A does have a couple of really specific pieces. I went over the stakeholder groups. That is a little more unique to Title IV. But any LEA receiving more than $30,000 must complete a comprehensive needs assessment. If you are receiving less than $30,000, you're encouraged to complete a needs assessment. So the LEA needs you need to complete it every 3 years. It's not every year, it's every three. And the assessment needs to examine the data for to understand the pressing needs to include the needs and root causes, system and inequities, and prioritization. Most of our LEAs use the needs assessment with Title I, but you do need to supplement a piece of that because remember, we have to include the safe and healthy student section. So that's where we're going to bring in things like maybe your school climate surveys, SHARP survey data. If your LEA participates, your region participates in SHARP survey data, that's a great source. School attendance data, talking to school counselors, all of those can supplement in that safe and healthy part from the Title I needs assessment. So you can use the data that you can use the data from your Title I needs assessment, but you are going to have to supplement to understand the needs around safe and healthy students. So before transferring, again, the needs assessment needs to show the best use of funds is in the transfer to program, Title I or Title II. So again, that is the purpose of the needs assessment is to determine your goals. It isn't determine your goals and then find the data to support that. It's do your needs assessment first, and the needs assessment will tell you what the best use of funds is. Next slide. So why? Why should we even do Title IV Part A? It's a formula-based fund and allows your district to support a diverse needs such as mental health services, STEM programs, digital literacy that might not be covered by state or other local budgets. They are flexible funds. They support salary and benefits, professional learning, supplies, curriculum, and more. No food, no infrastructure, weapons, and no supplanting. It is based on student-centered goals. So our big overarching question is always, how does the goal support student outcomes? Which, as a past educator, like that's what this is all about to me and why I love Title IV so very much. I love that it is supporting student outcomes. And my final slide is when is it appropriate to transfer funds? You are allowed to transfer. I know I just spent the last 14 slides convincing you that Title IV Part A is a fantastic program, and it is. I fully believe it. But there are times when transferring is in the best, it is best for your LEA. So when the needs assessment tells you it is. So the data that you did from that comprehensive needs assessment shows that the funds are better utilized in Title I or Title II, that it's better to transfer. Your data shows that's where you need the money. Stakeholder input. Your stakeholders, that whole giant list of stakeholders, including the private schools, agree that funds are better utilized in the transfer of the funds. And then the last one is capacity. When LEAs do not have a capacity to run multiple programs, when you are a staff of one or maybe two, running 3, 4, or 5 programs is asking a lot. And writing the goals and the action plan and being monitored under multiple programs. We understand, and you can do more when you combine your funds because you aren't spending all of your time on the paperwork side. You get to actually put that program into use to the fullest ability that you have. So these are all very acceptable reasons to transfer funds. Transferring funds just because it's easier is not appropriate. But transferring funds because your needs assessment tells you so, your stakeholder input tells you so, and your capacity limits you, that's when we transfer our funds. So that was a lot of talking. I would love if anyone has a question, or maybe you love Title IV Part A as much as I do, and you want to say how great it's made your school. I would totally accept that feedback too.
Thank you, Jody. What questions or comments or praise do you have for Jody or about Title IV? Jody, thank you so much. I know that we had to
Yeah.
really carve out some time for you today, and I really appreciate this. This is the time we're getting towards the time of year where Jody and I start to talk a lot because that preliminary pre-application comes out, and there's a discussion about transfer of funds. So, Jody, thank you very much.
Max, I really appreciate you inviting me on. So thank you. And I'll hang out for a little
So,
bit longer. So if anyone like if you come up with a question, I mean I'll watch the chat. So I'll stay on for a little bit longer.
appreciate it, Jody. Thank you. We also reserve some time for our other colleague who is the Title II Part A grant coordinator. She supervises Title II. This is another funding source that this time of year we begin conversations prior to that pre-application to see who's transferring funds from Title II into Title I, and then having discussions about, well, maybe we ought to be talking a little bit more about this. So, Katie, if you're here, I will turn the time over to you. And just let me know if you would like to drive your own slides or if you would just like to have me continue moving them forward.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, you can just keep, I'll just say click or whatever.
Okay.
But that was really helpful, that overview of Title IV. Um, it really like, in fact, Jody and I earlier were like, oh my goodness, did you know that about Title I? Like, this is really great to be here and to be part of this uh, part of your time today. So go ahead and advance. So, hello, I'm Katie Jones. I'm the Educator Development Specialist at USBE. So I support new teacher induction and mentoring, teacher recognition, and teacher leadership with the Utah Teacher of the Year program, and I manage the Title II Part A grant. So I was also a classroom teacher. I spent 28 years in Washington County in elementary and middle school as a teacher. I was also an instructional coach, reading interventionist, and a professional learning lead. And so now I'm with USBE and I am enjoying spending time with and learning about how LEAs across the state are supporting teachers. So we'll talk today about Title I, Part A. I can also give you the numbers. I had to quick, fast look them up. But Title II historically receives around $2 billion nationwide. Utah last year received 17,465,337 dollars for our state. And this year we are nearly $1 million less with 16,473,393. So you may see a slight decrease in your allocation. It's also based on the formula as well. So we follow the census and the Title One following up that second year that lag. So as you just saw with Title IV, focusing on expanding opportunities for students through well-rounded education, safe and healthy schools and technology. What I hope to do is build on that and show you how Title II fits into that system because these programs are designed to work together, not separately. So go ahead. This slide is just a quick reminder that the goal of all three programs is to improve student outcomes. Everything that we've heard from Jody and what we will talk about concerning Title I, II, and IV is ultimately working toward that same outcome, that improved student outcomes. Title I identifies student needs and provides direct academic support. Title II builds the capacity of the educators to meet those needs. And then Title IV, as you just saw, supports the broader learning environments and opportunities for those students. So when these are aligned and working together, that's when we see the strongest impact on student outcomes. So each program plays a different role, but they all lead to the same place. All right. Go ahead. Thank you. The purpose of Title II is to increase student achievement, but it does it through the educators and leaders. It focuses on improving the quality and effectiveness of teachers, principals, and other school leaders and increasing the access to effective educators, especially for low income and minority students. And we support evidence-based professional learning. You may have heard Title II, Part A federal grants referred to as the professional learning grant, right? That's just one part. So again, same goal as Title IV, but a different pathway to get there. Go ahead. So in practice, Title II funds are used for things like professional learning, recruitment and retention, and leadership development. You'll notice the similarity to Title IV here. Everything should be aligned to identified needs and focused on impact. So where Title II differs is that everything centers on educator effectiveness and instructional quality. So one thing that is really specific to Title II is how we define professional learning. Under ESEA, professional learning should be sustained, intensive, collaborative, job embedded, data driven, and classroom focused. So this goes beyond one-time workshops. No more sit and get trainings. And we look for that as we review your applications, that what you're building as a professional learning plan does support all six of these. We call them the professional learning pillars. So we're looking for ongoing learning that is connected to educator practice and outcomes for students. All right, go ahead. So just like you saw in Title IV and Max reviewed earlier in Title I, the needs assessment is a critical part of the process. This will feel very similar because it aligns closely with what you saw from Jody, but both programs rely on this needs assessment to drive decisions, which is where our ongoing consultation comes in. So I loved that Max, he said that he shares this cycle of continuous school improvement, that the CNA lies within that. So one thing I want to clarify is that this does not need to be a separate needs assessment just for Title II and one for Title IV. Actually, all of these title programs should be included in your yearly or ongoing consultation. So you can and you should use your existing comprehensive needs assessment. What we're looking for is that your needs assessment includes consideration of educator effectiveness, educator focused areas like professional learning, educator effectiveness, which would include maybe instructional coaching, your mentoring programs, and then access to effective teachers and leaders for all students, particularly low income and minority students. So it's about not about doing more, it's about making sure that Title II is intentionally included in the work that you're already doing. So same requirement, different focus. All right, go ahead. So again, required stakeholders for consultation. One thing that I've noticed that is highlighted in Title II. So these are the same: teachers, principals, school leaders, specialized instructional support. You might have noticed Jody had tribal leaders on hers. Ours is paraprofessionals. Our teachers in the classroom work with paraprofessionals to support students and to ensure that the effectiveness of the instructional strategies that are being used in classrooms. So we have added them to our list, and we want to bring that to your attention because it might be one of those stakeholders you may have overlooked in the past. However, everything else is the same. That this needs to be timely, meaningful, and ongoing, and it should directly inform your planning and particularly the use of funds. Go ahead. So this equitable services is another area where you'll see strong alignment across titles. One thing I've heard several times is, oh, we do that with Title I. But we want to make sure that you understand that equitable services for private schools with Title II funds is just a little different. What is the same is that it happens, that consultation happens before decisions are made, during needs assessment and planning. And just like Title IV, it's not about giving private schools a portion of funds. In fact, you maintain those funds, and the private school applies for these services through the LEA. So go ahead to the next slide. What is different and particular to Title II is that um, Title IV services might include student programs and supports, but Title II services are focused on educators. So this includes that professional learning, coaching, training for private school teachers and leaders. Conference attendance is one that we see often. So these services, however, must be secular, neutral, and non-ideological, and they must be based on the private school's needs identified through consultation and align with your needs. Again, they should be developed through that timely and meaningful consultation. Same requirement, just a different implementation. So we want to make that clear. Go ahead. So this year we've made quite a few updates to the program. We're trying to build a supportive program for you, but make sure that we are aligning with ESEA requirements. So we've strengthened the connection between your needs assessment, your goals, and your activities. And we've made that intentional on your application. We've also built in clearer expectations around program impact, equitable services, and allowability. So the goal for these changes and updates is to support stronger, more intentional planning and not just compliance. We also want to have that we want to think about the program ahead of time, right? That intentional planning rather than retroactive, oh yeah, it aligns kind of thing. Go ahead. So, I also want to emphasize that we're here to support you. Our Title II team, that's me, team of one, like Jody said, has and will continue to provide opportunities for collaboration. We will provide specific feedback. We're creating guidance documents, technical assistance, and we are providing ongoing professional learning. We've had our Title II symposium to help you build professional learning plans that align with your needs assessment. We also have provided recorded webinars. We will have office hours during the application season, and we have other resources available on our website. So my goal is to help you build a strong, approvable application, and more importantly, that a plan that supports your educators and students. I truly believe that if we do this, if we build a plan for educator growth that is intentional, that we will see student impact. We will see that impact right in the classroom with student success. So go ahead. As you think about Title II alongside Title I and Title IV, the key takeaway I'd like you to think about is this, that the programs are most powerful when they're aligned and when we intentionally plan and consult with all of our stakeholders and then identify which needs and which title fits within those needs. So that's it. That's all I have. Thank you so much. I appreciate being here, and I am super happy to talk to you. I will answer the phone and help you to build a great program for your Title II funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Folks, do you have additional questions or comments for Katie? That was my 30-second wait time. Katie, really appreciate it. And if you do have questions, add them in the chat. We can collect them. And Katie, if you can't hang around, we'll make sure we get those questions to you. But at least you now have a contact person and their face for Title IV and Title II. As I said, this is that time of year where The pre-applications will start to show up in Utah grants. And as a part of that application, there is a piece that asks you if you plan to transfer funds from Title IV or Title II into Title I. If you see a theme through this morning so far, it's that we're asking that you take into consideration what are your needs showing for your students? What are your needs showing for your schools? What are your needs showing for your staff in your community? If these two different funding sources can fit those identified needs in your subsequent planning better, utilize them for their purposes. They offer certain levels of focus and also additional flexibility for the things that have been identified. So, Katie and Jody, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Moving on, one of the things that, and if you have participated in a Title I monitoring visit with Val, you know that at the very end, she always asks us one question. What technical assistance or what support at USBE can we provide for you? There is one that comes up, and it's this absenteeism, chronic absenteeism. So, we got to this point at this part of the year, and I realized that school is almost over, but we started talking, and USBE, our staff is back in the office a number of days again. And so you start to get to know the folks that are sitting around you. And we found out we happen to have an absenteeism and truancy prevention specialist. We have a couple of them. One of them is Megan Menlove, who has agreed to be with us today. And Megan, if you're here, I can't see your face, but just let me know if you are here, if you would like me to drive your slides or if you would like to take over. Is Megan here? We can come back to her. Ryan, are you here? Ryan Bennett. No problem. So let me move forward into our agenda and we will come back. So we've talked a lot about how funds are used, federal funds are used, uh, and one of the things that I talked about earlier is that these are just resources. So they're there not as specific programs that you must satisfy the requirements for, but that they're resources to meet certain needs of your students. And so I say that out of one side of my mouth, but then at the other time, you will put together plans for your LEA, the plans get approved, and then as the year goes on, you submit requests for reimbursement. And oftentimes, we will stop and get in contact with you and say, hey, we have some questions about these reimbursements. We have some questions about the expenses that you've set aside or you've submitted receipts for. So I wanted to provide a context for that and what we see it and the context that we review when we are approving reimbursement requests or expenditures that are paid for with Title I dollars. So let me share again. And I wanted to just kind of walk through that with you. There's a share button. Okay. Some allowable costs. And let me just show you what we look at, or at least the context that we look at when expenditures come in that are assigned to Title I. So there is a basis for this, the context, and it's essentially what does the law tell us? What does guidance and regulation? There are really four pieces of it that we refer to or we go back to. The Uniform Grant Guidance, those are universal rules just for all federal grants, including education, that is included in federal grant definition. And then EDGAR, the Educational Department General Administrative Regulations. This is one that is specific to education-related federal grants. The Code of Federal Regulations takes the previous two and it makes those into federal law. It says this is in any one of these three things. There are limitations and there are things you must spend these funds on. And then, of course, the statute and the guidance. These are even more specific requirements. There are three things that all of these pieces of legislation or pieces of law have in common, and we'll talk through those briefly. The three things that they have in common is that they ask the expense. If this is assigned to Title I, is the expense necessary? Is the expense necessary to achieve the goals of the school, of the LEA, and the goals of Title I, closing the achievement gaps for all students? Is the expense reasonable? And we'll talk through these. Is the expense allocable? And why this matters is anytime that there is a questionable expense or something that absolutely just is not in line with one of these three things, if it's not necessary, it's not reasonable, it's not allocable, the expense is not allowable. And we would ask you to either make a budget amendment or, in a worst case scenario, those funds do have to be paid back. So is the cost necessary? Is the expense necessary to carry out your improvement plan, your district plan for the use of Title I funds, your school plan? Is it in the plan? So if you're buying something that has maybe a substantial expense to it, or even a minor expense to it, is it in the plan? Is it related to a goal? Is it related to a strategy? Is it related to an action? Is it related to an objective? And you have documentation for that. Is it something that was identified in your comprehensive needs assessment? Was it identified as a big why those things are in the needs assessment, why they're happening? And then is it included in budget narratives? Do you have receipts with enough detail to show, yes, it is. It is tied to this particular goal. It is in the plan. It was identified as a need. Secondly, is the cost reasonable? So if a cost comes in and you're buying a single chair and you're charging $10,000 to Title I for the purchase of that, is it a sound business practice? Is that ordinary? Is it comparable market price? And this is my favorite. Is it prudent judgment? Would anybody off the street look at that expense and say, that's okay? Or look at that expense and say, no, that's exorbitant? Is the cost allocable? Does it directly support the LEA or school improvement plan goals? If the cost is shared with another funding source, is it proportionally distributed? And is it documented with a reasonable method of allocation? We bought this from this place. We have receipts for it. We can show how it's tied to those goals. Here, I just made this kind of big list of questionable expenses. These are items that have either come up from the Department of Education through their monitoring visits, or they've come up in actual audits that we've had. Sometimes they're difficult to demonstrate that we couldn't have paid for this with our local or state funds, so it wasn't supplemental. It was we paid for Title I because we had Title I. Even though the cost may not have been necessary to achieve those goals, reasonable, or directly tied to improving academic outcomes for eligible students. I'll just highlight a couple of these that come up occasionally. Student or staff incentives, things like prizes, gifts, promotional items, swag, stuff we all get. If you attend, you get this. Other things like construction, renovations. Occasionally, there are questions about what that means. Non-instructional furniture or appliances. We're not saying you can't spend Title I dollars on these certain things. We're saying you need to be able to demonstrate that it's necessary to carry out strategies, to carry out activities towards the goals in your school improvement or LEA plans. And then, of course, always food, meals, hospitality, that's not tied to parent engagement. Now, I would say this as a caveat for parent engagement. Oftentimes, we'll see expenses for meals that were for parent engagement. We would only question that if is it necessary? It's a time restricted part of the day where this is when we can get parents to come in for parent engagement activities. And so therefore we're going to provide a reasonable and allocable meal or snack for those parents who come. And then of course, never alcohol. Lobbying fees, services or costs not specifically supporting identified Title I students or academic needs. And then is it allowable? Here are, if you want to go deeper, I put links here in the slides that we will share with you, actually to the Code of Federal Regulations that talks about necessary, reasonable, and allocable. And then there's a list here of things that are specifically prohibited. And there's some of the things that I think Jody mentioned. It's purchase of firearms, it's alcohol, they have a list of things. Some of them, if you get interested, I would read that because some of those things I'd think, well, we would never buy that for school anyway. So that's kind of an interesting one. Non-regulatory guidance. I put a link in here because the guidance spends a lot of time explaining things that we talk about when we do monitoring visits pertaining to Title I, maintenance of effort, comparability, supplement, not supplant. And then I want to put this pitch in for the ESEA.com resource. If you're not using it, it's a fabulous resource. If you can't get access to it, when Ryan gets here, he can talk you through how to get access to it. Utah has paid for this resource, so it is available to all who want to have access to it. If you go into that link and you go under, there's a tab called Tools You Can Use, and then they actually have a tab under it called Can You Pay For? And I just put a pitch in for this specific one because probably the most frequent question that I get from LEAs or from schools is, can I use Title I to buy this thing? And almost every time I initially go to this particular resource at ESEA Now, because what they have in that resource is they will tell you the answer bluntly, they will give you the context for it, and then they will explain what the Department of Ed has done, what audits have shown in various states, and then if there is even a court case that was involved with it, it will explain the outcomes of that. I'm going to stop here for questions. And then let me just check in briefly. Megan, are you here with us? Ryan, are you here from ESEA Now?
I'm here, Max.
Oh, Megan. Okay, good.
Can you hear
Sorry.
me?
I'm going to stop sharing and go back to your slides. Megan, would you like to drive your own slides and share, or would you like me to just drive them for you?
You can just push them along if you want, if that's easier. Whatever's easiest.
Okay. Let me get back to your spot here. Okay, Megan, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. I was telling the folks a little earlier that, one of the things that comes up when we're talking with LEAs or we're monitoring, one of the issues that seems to be pretty frequent is the attendance issue. We saw a lot of conversation and drop off in attendance after the pandemic, and we're kind of slowly starting to still try to get back. So as USBE folks have come back into the office and we've had these discussions, we're like, there's Megan over there and there's Garrett over there. We actually have people who work with attendance. So I'm going to abuse this relationship with them to see if they will share some resources with our folks. So Megan, that big introduction. I will turn the time over to you.
Thanks, Max. I'm happy to be here. I know you wanted Garrett, but he's
Not
unfortunately
true.
on a mountain in Aspen right now in the sun with his child. But I'm happy to be here and just share a few things. I see some familiar faces on this call, some of you who are already engaged with us and working with us with attendance in your own LEA. If you can just go to the next slide. So today I'm just going to share with you some supports that you might not know about or that you might know about the LEA that we offer as from USBE to our LEAs and to our individual schools. I'm also going to tell you about our Everyday Counts statewide attendance campaign. If you have not heard about that, we did launch a statewide attendance campaign last summer, pretty much the beginning of this school year. And then we'll share some best practices that we've seen around the state. And then also, I will be happy to answer any questions or take your questions and get back to you. So, if you just want to go to the next slide. So, today, some of our learning objectives, obviously, the teacher, principal, and me feels like I should always start every presentation with telling you what we're hoping that you'll learn from what we're going to share, or what I'm going to share, I guess, today. Again, just what supports are available from USBE that you will know about the statewide attendance campaign, and hopefully that you will want to get involved with the work that we are doing to promote positive attendance statewide, and that you'll learn about some of the best practices and that you can take those back and share them with your own LEA. Okay, we'll go to the next couple, so you can skip the next slide and then go to the next one, Max. The first thing I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about is our attendance toolkit. Um, you want to go to that slide, Max? So if you didn't know or you aren't familiar, if you are interested in learning more about an attendance system in your LEA, or you're working with other people in your LEA who are also working with attendance, or you have schools that you're working with who are saying, we're really struggling with attendance, this is a good place to start. This toolkit outlines kind of what a good system in your school or in your LEA should look like. That includes developing an attendance team, talking about stakeholder engagement. How do you get the people around you involved? Because that is the number one um, indicator right now that is pushing attendance and get kids getting back into school and families getting more involved, is involving all the stakeholders, including your community partners and other businesses that are around your schools. And then also looking at data, developing an attendance MTSS structure. Not a lot of LEAs or schools have those in place, but that is so important to know what you're doing at each of those levels. And then learning about adjusting what you're doing, being able to reflect on it, and then obviously celebrating the good things that are happening. Also in this toolkit, which will be being updated obviously in the next couple of months, is about our board rule and legislation. One of the questions that we get a lot, which sounds similar to what Max was just saying about what can I spend my money on, is we get what can I actually do? What does the law say that we can do with students and families who are not coming to school? And that is all in this toolkit, but it's also broken down and summarized so that you can easily understand what the board rule says and what the legislation. And there were three attendance bills that actually passed through our state legislature this past session. So obviously, lots of people are talking about attendance. It is definitely an issue in our state and across our nation. So this toolkit is a good place to start. The next slide, if you want to go to that, is we also offer engagement and attendance cohorts. If you can click through that. These are a whole year you commit to this cohort. I can see some names on here of some people who are already coming to our cohort or who have been in our cohort. But pretty much this cohort, we meet 6 times over the course of a year, and we help you develop that attendance system in your LEA or in your school. So we look at your policies, we look at all the things we kind of just talked about with the toolkit. We also help you with your messaging. the best benefit I feel like of the cohort is that you also get to interact with other LEAs and other schools that are around the state that are also focusing on attendance. So creating a network of support and also network of ideas and best practices. We are getting ready to do our onboarding for this coming school year. Those meetings will start in April. And so if you have any interest in that or you have any schools that you think might be good that would like to participate, again, this is not mandated, but everyone is welcome. We have right now we're about at 25, I think, LEAs that are in our cohort, and then we have at least I think 10 more that are going to join us. So it's a big group of people. The meetings are whole group, but also individual and small groups. You get a little variety of meetings, but also a great opportunity. If you want to go to the next slide, you can see these are who have been in our cohorts. So our new cohorts this year on the left-hand side, and then people who have been in the cohort for a number of years. This cohort's been going for about 3 years, 4 years, I think. So these are people, if you're not sure that your district was involved or your LEA was involved, now you might know. This is good to know so you can also be involved in those conversations. That's why I wanted to share this information with all of you. But again, we'd love to have anybody else join us. If it's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out to us. We'll go to the next slide. The other thing that we offer, or one of the other things we offer, is we do hold webinars. In these webinars, these are the different focuses you can see, but we also talk about, in every webinar, we talk about commonly asked questions. We also go over attendance laws and rules. And then we also have people share out things that are happening. We do have one more cohort or one more webinar this school year. It's on May 5th. We'll be talking about policies. Your attendance policy is such an important part of getting a good attendance system. So just so you know, if you go to the next slide, you can see these are our upcoming webinar dates. Also, these webinars are recorded. They're available on our USBE attendance team YouTube channel, and then the slides are available on our website. Our website is like jam-packed full of information. I know a lot of people that we meet with, didn't know we even had an absenteeism and truancy prevention website. I'm going to drop the link to that website in the chat, so if you want to check it out. And this is next year is May 4th. This coming year for that's May 4th of 2027. But May 5th is the one for this year. So yeah, if you want to go to the next slide. The other thing that we send out are monthly newsletters. I know some of you that are on here, I see your names that I know you get our newsletters, but if you're not getting our newsletters and you want information about attendance, we share best practices in this. We share articles. We also talk about our campaign and other resources, but feel free to reach out to me if you want to get any information every month. And we just send that out at the beginning of every month. So that's a helpful resource. If you want to go to the next slide. The other thing we offer is Check and Connect. If you're not familiar with Check and Connect, which probably some of you are, some of you aren't, it is a Tier 2 evidence-based mentoring program. It identifies at-risk students based on their attendance, behavior, and course performance. Utah does pay for all the training, but then you have to pay for your individual mentors that are the ones that are checking and connecting with your students. These mentors are trained, and then they set goals to help students re-engage, and with the goal of obviously high school graduation. And Garrett oversees that for the state on the prevention side. So feel free to reach out to him or to me if you want more information about Check and Connect. And then if you want to go to the next slide, the last thing that we wanted to highlight that we offer as a support to LEAs and to schools for attendance is that we do have a shared Google Drive. And in that shared Google Drive, there are a lot of resources. You can find campaign resources, but we're also getting ready to launch a model attendance policy. So if your district is looking at, or LEA is looking at revamping their attendance policy, we've developed a model attendance policy. We also just released some model attendance letters for compulsory education violations and for truancy notifications. And there's also like procedures to what it takes to send out those letters. And yes, I will put the link to that shared Google Drive. It is a continuating, or it's the right word, like it's a live drive. Like we're adding to it every day. Um, and we also love it when people send us stuff and say, hey, we have a really great policy, or hey, we have this really awesome attendance incentive that we do. You should put it in your drive. There's also information in there about September Attendance Awareness Month. If you weren't aware, that is the month that we do celebrate attendance and kind of try to focus on that. So if you want to run a campaign. This time of year, we call it the spring slide. As you guys know, springtime can be sometimes a challenging time for kids and families to get to school. So is also resources to help with the spring slide. What can you do? So lots of resources in this drive. The toolkit's also linked in there, and then the information I'm going to go over about the attendance campaign. All of the resources are also available in that drive and on our website. So, if you want to go to the next slide, we're going to talk about our statewide attendance campaign. Our slogan is Every Day Counts. Like I said, we launched this school year. This campaign was developed through a community effort. We had a committee that met for about a year before we launched this campaign to talk about the goals, what we wanted this to accomplish. People gave input on what would be helpful as an LEA or as a school, what resources we could develop at the state level that would help. One thing we hear a lot from people who are in the schools or in the LEA level is we don't have time. Like our time is very limited. So what we've hoped to develop with this campaign is a lot of resources that will help you be able to send things out and not have to take time to create everything yourself. So if you want to go to the next slide, why did we develop an attendance campaign? Obviously, like Max said, and as all of you know, absenteeism is rising. Statewide, our chronic absenteeism rate actually stayed exactly the same between 2024 and 2025. I have questions about that, how it was exactly the same, but our statewide chronic absenteeism rate is 23.8%, which means about one in every four um, students are chronically absent, which means that they have missed at least 10% of the school year. So about 18 days of your 180 days, which might not seem like a lot, but over time, those absences really add up, and the learning missed and the other opportunities that they're missing at school are critical, as you guys all know. We also know that messaging does work. We met with a number of states that have launched statewide attendance campaigns. Before we launched ours, we met with them and talked about the impacts that they've seen. Obviously, there's no way to say that because somebody saw a billboard or got a flyer in the mail or got an email or saw something on social media that forced that family to get back to school or whatever. Those are hard things to see. But we do know that states that are using clear positive attendance messaging have seen chronic absenteeism go down. So that is our goal. Everyone plays a role. That's part of why there's a statewide attendance campaign that students, families, schools, and communities must partner together. So that is why we did a statewide attendance campaign. If you want to go to the next slide, these are our goals of the campaign. Obviously, to reduce chronic absenteeism rates, all of us would love to see students back in school. Our pre-pandemic absenteeism rates were as low as 11.3%, like 2015. So kind of a big change between 11.3% and then 23.8. So we want to reduce that rate. We want to increase daily attendance rates. And then also most obvious for us, our biggest goal was to raise awareness. That's why we have a campaign. So if you want to go to the next slide, part of our campaign is a statewide attendance challenge. I know there are some LEAs on here that have joined our attendance challenge. This challenge will continue on into next year. So if you haven't joined this year, we would love to have you join us next year, or at any point you can join the statewide attendance challenge. We've created an attendance ambassador and support network, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We've also given out monthly messaging, um, those resources that you can send out in a newsletter or post on social media. We've also developed a bunch of school resources and implementation tools. Obviously, we talked about our toolkit. That's also part of this campaign. And then we also already talked about the ongoing webinars and professional learning opportunities through our cohort and other individualized coaching opportunities that we offer. If you want to go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the attendance challenge. What does that mean? So if you join the attendance challenge, you have to unite your whole school. We want you to get students, teachers, and families. And the question in the chat, who can be an ambassador? Anyone, teachers, students, parents, community members. We'll go through that in just a second. I'll get to that, Laura Lee. But yeah, thanks for asking that question. If you want to go to the next slide, we can kind of go through these. We want you to get your teachers involved with the attendance challenge. Part of what you commit to is that teachers are going to commit to taking daily attendance and building positive relationships. We know teachers are crucial when it comes to getting kids back in school. The next slide, we want you to track your progress that you're making and then sharing stuff. We've had people submitting updates. This slide's a little old, so you can go to the next slide. Then we want you to engage families as partners. Part of what you commit to, if you do commit to the challenge, is that you get your parents involved in school groups. And then the next thing, if you want to go to the next slide, is just to celebrate and inspire your community. So part of the challenge is trying to get your community involved, saying, hey, we're joining this challenge. We want to work on attendance in our school or in our LEA. If you go to the next slide, you can see that these are reasons why people are joining our challenge. Like Wayne District, they said attendance is a problem that leads to other problems, and it is one we can work on solving. So that's why they joined the attendance challenge. Weaver School District said we are interested in resources and learning what others are doing to promote attendance. And then you can see the other ones. I won't read all of them. If you want to join our challenge, if you go to the next slide, Max, this is a QR code that you can scan. I'll also drop the link so you can look more into this if you want to. I'll drop the link in the chat. But yeah, we can go to the next slide. That's the challenge. And then I'll talk a little bit about, we can go through these pretty quickly if you want. We have newsletters like we talked about, messaging, simple things you just copy and paste and put in your stuff. If you go to the next slide, we have social media posts that we've created that you can just copy and repost, which is super nice. And then the next thing is we have posters we have that you can hang up in your school that we've created. We've created handouts for families, for community members. We have attendance calendars that you can just print off. And when you meet with families, you can talk to them about how much their students are actually missing school. And then obviously, we've already talked about the attendance Google Drive. So if you want to go to the next slide, we can keep going. Okay, let's talk about ambassadors. What does it mean to be an attendance ambassador? We're hoping that today some of you will decide you want to be an attendance ambassador. It is no extra work to anybody, but it is a commitment that you want kids back in school. So if you'll go to the next slide, what is an attendance ambassador? An attendance ambassador is somebody who is working hard to promote students attending school, which I think everyone who works with students and teachers and people are all doing that. You know about the campaign. Now all of you know, so now all of you can become attendance ambassadors. You do not have to have all the information or have it memorized. You just know about the campaign. If you go to the next slide, you have to care about students and their success in school and their success out of school. Obviously, that's important. And then supporting others by sharing tools and pointing them to helpful attendance resources, which just can simply be like, oh, I know these attendance specialists at USBE. Here, talk to them. So those are the 4 things that you commit to when you become an attendance ambassador. So if we can go through the next slide, you can see, you'll see some of faces on here that you might already know, but you can kind of scroll through those if you want, Max. Here's some of our awesome attendance ambassadors. You can just keep going through those. We have a state board member, our state superintendent, we have superintendents, we have teachers, we have parents, we have students. We have community and business partners who have said, hey, we want kids to be at school. So these are all of our attendance ambassadors. We're super excited. We got like 20 new attendance ambassadors in the last couple of weeks. So it's never too late, and we're going to continually add. I'm dropping in the chat the if you want to keep going, Max, to the end. So if you want to be an attendance ambassador, it's super easy. Fill out this survey. You have to be okay with us putting your face on our slides and putting your name on our website. This is a way for us to show our legislators and to show others that we are committed to changing the trajectory of attendance, that we want it to change. So we would love to have all of you join us. If you have questions about it, feel free to drop them in the chat, or I'd be happy to talk to you individually. But if you're not already an attendance ambassador, we would love to have you. Again, it's no extra work to you. All we do is we send you an email with more resources and say, thanks for joining us. We put your name up here. Max, you could even join us. I should have asked you before. We would love to have you. We have lots of USBE partners within our own agency who are attendance ambassadors. And you can find a list of all of our ambassadors if you're curious on our website too, that I already dropped in the chat. So any questions about the campaign before we move on? I'm kind of going quickly, but it's because I have lots of information to share. If you have questions, feel free to drop them and I'll look at it. Okay, let's talk about some of the awesome things that are happening around the state that you might or might not know about. The first one we wanted to talk about is Wayne School District. So Wayne School District has been in our cohort for quite a few years. And this year they decided to hold a community wellness night for their whole county. And they had businesses there. They shared information with the community at the high school. They had a guest speaker come. They gave away prizes. They had little booths around in their commons area, focusing on good things that are happening in school. We have a lot of different LEAs and also individual schools that are holding these community nights, really trying to get their whole community involved in the conversation about attendance. So super awesome. The next slide, some things that we've seen out of American Academy of Innovation. They joined our cohort this year. They've been holding quarterly attendance parties for students who have improved attendance. Sometimes you'll see a lot of people only celebrating perfect attendance, but we definitely encourage to celebrate improved attendance. Sometimes just getting kids there one more day a week or one more class is a good start. They've also partnered with the new Bees baseball stadium to get free tickets for their students with good attendance. They send out attendance blurbs in their monthly newsletter, and then they're also working with other nearby businesses to not serve students. During class time, they've gone around and talked to the businesses around them and said, hey, this is when class time is, this is when lunchtime is, and try to encourage them not to serve their students. We can go to the next slide. Clayton Middle School, there's a lot on here, but they do monthly attendance themes, and they incorporate their mascot. November, they did like be a quality worker and producer, attend, repeat, turn up the heat. So they've kind of like used their mascot to promote positive attendance. They also have gotten their parents involved. They give monthly attendance updates to their school community council. They've created a flyer monthly comparing this year to last year. So they'll say like, was our attendance this year, this was our attendance last year, trying to encourage more families to be at school. They have students involved. They have daily attendance reminders through their announcements that students read on the intercom. They do attendance shout outs. They have teachers working on competition with taking attendance, and then they've included their teachers in their plans and with their monthly promotions. They also utilize social media. They take pictures of the incentives. They've taken pictures and post things about um, who's winning at their attendance challenges. They also, one of the cool things we learned from them is that they use Kroger funds. So families sign up to have um, a part of their like grocery bills given to the school. So yeah, that's really cool. Um, if you want to go to the next slide, Copperview Elementary School, they also have learned that Fridays are one of their low attendance days, so they don't miss out on Friday fun. And then on Fridays, they pass out a little treat as kids are coming in and saying like, "Thanks for being here, thanks for coming to school." Um, they do a lot with their community as well. They've given students jobs like that they have at school, and so they work on that. If you want to go to the next slide, Jordan School District, they do a lot of things. They have an attendance specialist at their district level. They have monthly posts. You can go to the next slide too. They've also created all of these flyers and postcards that they send out, telling kids that they missed them at school, sending out what families can do to support good attendance and stuff like that. They also held a district-wide wellness day where kids didn't come to school and they were encouraged to do, and teachers and everybody did like a wellness, focusing on your wellness. So that if you want more information about that, I can share that with you. The next slide, Murray School District. This is an idea we wanted to share. This is what an attendance calendaring would look like. So they have it all planned out every month, what attendance incentives and interventions they're going to be using. Um, so that is in Murray. And then the next slide in Tooele, they have a tiered response to truancy and chronic absenteeism. You can see that. They've also created their own campaign that goes around with their district theme of education elevated. They have attend today, excel tomorrow. Then they have a bunch of other interventions that you can see. And then they send these postcards or these flyers out to families and also implement these tiered interventions. And then lastly, if you want to go to the last slide, Canyon School District, we just learned about this. There are a number of other districts who are also using telehealth in their schools, um, where the nurses have access to the equipment and kids are able to see a telehealth doctor right there at school. The equipment is given to the nurses and then they facilitate. This obviously works better in schools that have full-time nurses. Can be more challenging if a nurse is having to bump around. But also their teachers get the benefit from this service as well. So what they're finding is that students are staying at school when they usually would be going home because the nurse is saying, "Hey, look, we can get you access to a doctor." Parents pick them up and go pick up a prescription, get them before, and then parents don't have to take them to the doctor. So just another idea of things that we're seeing that are helping kids be at school, stay at school, um, and just people thinking outside the box of how do we address the barriers that are within our own school community and then focus on those and then find solutions. So that is what I have to share. Are there any questions that I can answer? I don't see any in the chat and nobody's coming off mute. Um, but if you want to go to the last slide, um, this is our team. This is our contact information. If you would like us to meet with you or your LEA or any schools individually, we also do that, obviously. We're happy to offer any sort of support that we can to people who are trying to address different barriers within their own school communities.
Megan, thank you very much. I know you had to jump in for Garrett, but we really appreciate your time. While we've got Megan here, that was a ton of
I
information.
know, sorry.
No, fabulous. Any questions for Megan while we've got her?
Yeah, and if you want to share this with other people who are doing attendance work, we'd love that. Or if you want to get involved, we'd love to have you become an ambassador or encourage your schools and people you're working with to join our challenge to really focus on attendance, to commit to it, to show their communities That's a good first step. If people are like, I don't know what to do, I'm like, start somewhere. Like every little thing that you do can make a great impact, even if it only helps one kid. That's one kid that's at school more than the others. So we're grateful for all the work that you guys do. If we're happy to support if we can. But yeah, thanks for letting us come and share our stuff. We hope that you'll join us and become an ambassador, at least that. Just kidding. But yeah, hopefully you at least learn something that you can take back or that you can share with somebody else or that you now know is happening. So if you hear things, you can talk to us.
Megan, thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
Such valuable resources and have a face and a contact at USBE. And thank you for sharing things that are working that have been shared from LEAs as well, because oftentimes, our Title I folks like to reach out to other Title I folks. So thank you
Yes.
for sharing that information.
Yeah,
Much
of course.
appreciated.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Okay. See
Let
ya.
me do a quick check here and see. Ryan, are you with us from our ESEA now, folks? Okay. So divert your eyes. I'm going to go through this, scroll down just here a little bit. I wanted to check in just a little bit because this gets to be the time of the year where, we're ending the school year and the summer leaves, and sometimes we don't check in as much with budgets and things. We're kind of in a weird situation this year because we received $20 million more this year than we did the previous year. Sometimes receiving more funds actually causes as many problems as not receiving funds. So we want to bring this up now because the fiscal year ends on September 30th, 2026. So if you have more than 15% of your allocation and it hasn't been obligated or encumbered, then you either have to apply for an excess carryover waiver or those funds can be taken back and reallocated. So let me just tell you how this works. So we receive preliminary allocations in the spring. We have them. We will have them out to you in the next number of days. Marilee and Clint are furiously working to get those prepared and vetted so we can send them out. In Title I funding comes out, final allocations in two parts. It comes out first in July, and then a second appropriation in October. Those two grant award notifications, and this is why there are adjustments sometimes between September and October, those two constitute your total Title I award. And why this matters. So this is a question we get oftentimes because sometimes there's a source of confusion. The General Education Provisions Act, or GEPA, it allows federal education funds 27 months to be encumbered, expended from July 1, and I put this example because this is this year's funding, to September 30th so it gives you 27 months of 2027. But then Title I specifically, Section 1127 for Title I limits the amount an LEA may carry over from one fiscal year's allocation to no more than 15%. So that means when we get to September 30th, 2026, if you have more than 15% of your total allocation that has not been encumbered, you either have to be eligible to apply for a Title I a waiver for these funds, or those funds may be taken back and reallocated. Now, if you're an LEA that receives less than $50,000, this isn't applicable to you. Additionally, and I've kind of mentioned this a few times, the same section in ESEA specific to Title I limits the amount that the state, that USBE or the SEA, can carry over more than 15% or apply for a waiver to once every 3 years. So, for example, I put this in here. If you apply for a waiver this year, you wouldn't be able again to apply for a waiver until 2029. And you have to submit this excess carryover waiver fund. And I've mentioned this. Any unobligated funds above that 15% or not approved by the waiver, they get taken back and reallocated out through a procedure and a process to other LEAs for expenditure. Um, so the reason we bring this up is we've made a really concerted effort over the past year to contact LEAs that look like they're going to be up against it on the 15% carryover waiver. But there are 128 of you, and I think sometimes we lose contact. So there is a request here. Please submit timely reimbursements. And again, I mentioned this. We come off a year where we received $20 million in excess, or not excess, just additional funds based on those funding formulas. What happens is, when there's so much money left over, you're trying to go, okay, so we're really trying to fund our plan here, but we have so much money. If you keep track of it more frequently and submit those requests for reimbursement, we can kind of follow up with you and be monitoring that. Check in with your business administrator or your financial support organization. See where you are, where we're coming over the summer and people take vacations and then come back. All of a sudden, school has started and we're up against that September 30th deadline. Check in with them to see if you are encumbering or obligating those funds before that September 30th. We'll try. We keep trying to get better at this every year, and we've tried to get ahead of it and contact those LEAs that look like they may be up against that 15%. But please, check in yourself just to make sure you're not there, so that it doesn't catch us off guard and it doesn't catch you off guard as you're working to expend those funds. And then if you have any questions, please contact us. Marilee, is there anything that I missed or anything additional you would like to say about the carryover waivers?
Nope, I think you covered it pretty good.
Again, and check in with us if you have any questions, even if it's just my business administrator is on vacation, I can't get a hold of that person. Will you check for us to let us know how much we have? We want to just check in. Also do that. Check in with us there. Let me take a pause. Are there any questions or comments? And then we'll check one more time to see if Ryan's with us. Ryan, have you been able to join us? Okay. So just regarding formulas and timelines for Title I or federal funds in general, you want to go a little deeper into those. I put links into this first link, congress.gov. They haven't put the current or the future funding fiscal year into it, but it has really good examples and timelines and formulas that explain how this all works and how it's related to the actual statutes and laws. I put in there GEPA, the act that's specific to federal funds and the timelines, and then the sections in ESEA that are specific to Title I. I again put in that ESEA.com. One of the features of if you have access to that system, to that resource, ESEA.com, is you can actually ask the staff that work for LRP to look up for you certain questions. So again, just another promotion. It's free to you. Please access it. If you can't get access, I have Ryan's contact information at the end of the master PowerPoint slides here. I also put a link in there to the excess carry waiver form. So that must be completed before we get to that September 30th deadline. If you know now, as you're planning, looking forward, that you're going to need that, check in with us to make sure you haven't submitted one in the last 3 years so that you're eligible to submit one, and you can have it prepared now if you'd like. Okay. This is a time of year. We have some folks that have been so kind to me and have participated as a member of the Title I Committee of Practitioners for a number of years. Just to shout out Steve Burton, Michelle Eldridge, because I think Steve's been a member of the Title I Committee of Practitioners for about 100 years now. He's nice enough to help us out, but this is a time when I put out a plea for interest and for participation in this. The Title I Committee of Practitioners is actually required by law for Title I, and it has a responsibility. It's an advisory committee. So the responsibilities the state has in carrying out Title I, the committee serves to advise those certain procedures, those activities. One of the things that's specifically listed in the law is that the Committee of Practitioners will review before publication any proposed or final state rule or regulation pursuant to Title I. One of the pieces a number of years ago that thanks, Becky. We'll get to them here in just a second. One of the pieces that the Title I Committee of Practitioners did that we've worked through is, for paraprofessionals, one of the things that they have to do to be highly qualified, among other things, is pass one of those assessments. We've only had one in the past, and we were able to include two additional assessments so that those paraprofessionals could be considered highly qualified and be in compliance with Title I. That process actually went through preliminarily the Committee of Practitioners. Some of the other things they do talk about is program design and delivery, practical impacts of Title I requirements on LEAs and schools. A couple of years back, the Title I Committee of Practitioners helped us get approved applying for a federal waiver for carryover amounts. And we were able to, with the assistance of the Committee of Practitioners, get that passed by the board and passed by the Department of Education. Certain Title I expenses, one of which will spill into this next piece of it, but there are certain expenses. One thing that we are allowed to do through the use of Title I's at the state is set aside a portion of those funds for two schools each fiscal year to be recognized as ESEA distinguished schools and participate in the National ESEA Conference and be recognized and celebrated. Because that is a certain Title I expense, that procedure is under the advisory and vote of the Committee of Practitioners. So here are the members that are required. We need to have administrators familiar with Title I, teachers, parents, local school board members, private school representatives, paraprofessionals, charter school leaders. There are three that we really are in kind of desperate need to find someone to participate with us in the committee. We need parents, local school board members, and a private school representative. Our person who was with us for such a long time retired and moved away, so we need to replace her. So if you're interested in participating as a Committee of Practitioner member or you have a recommendation, please get a hold of me. The members we do have now are great. I'm sure like Steve and Michelle and Janie Stoddard, who's been on there for 100 years as well, may want to pursue other interests. So if you're interested, please contact me. We hold no more than 3 tentative meetings per year unless some emergency comes up, and then we'll hold an impromptu meeting. We have one upcoming meeting next month where we have a couple of items that we'll discuss there. So please, if you would like to participate or you have a recommendation specifically for a parent, a local school board member, or a private school representative, reach out to me so I can reach out to them. Any questions about the Committee of Practitioners? Okay. Becky tells me that Ryan is here.
Hello,
So
Max.
I'm going to stop. Are you there, Ryan? We're going
Yes,
to stop
hello.
and we're going to stop recording for you. And if I could just, I've been talking you resource. It's such a beneficial resource. And I know that there are, out in our meetings with some of the LEAs while we're monitoring and through conversations, we've gotten questions about what it is. So I know there are some who still don't have access to it, or there's been change in staff. And so I'm going to turn the time over to you to tell us what it is and then what it means to be able to get access to it.
Definitely. Let me go ahead and share my screen here.
Okay, well, I figured we would end on a high note here. Um, each year we participate in the National ESEA Distinguished School program. And through our NASPAR, or this organization, the National Association of ESEA State Program Administrators, who also puts on the national conference, they allow for us to select based on certain categories and criteria up to 2 schools each fiscal year to be recognized as a distinguished school to participate for travel and travel, hotels, participation in the conference and be specifically recognized. The 3 categories of schools that we can select from is a category 1, exceptional student performance and growth, category 2, closing the achievement gap, or category 3, schools that show excellent in serving special populations of students. So what happens every single year is we work with our data and statistics team to find, based on our criteria, those Title I schools in Utah who have performed in the top 5% of Title I schools for 3 consecutive years. From that, we take that data, we break it apart by student group, by growth, and try to select these categories. Because we set aside funding for this, we take it to the committee of practitioners to help us select up to 2 schools. This year, after looking at all the data and reviewing, the committee of practitioners selected Lincoln Elementary and Cache School District for showing excellence in serving special populations of students. They put together a video and got to send a team to Denver to the ESA. Oh, thank you, Val. Val put the link to their video in the chat. They received $15,000 supplemental Title I funds to send a team to that conference in Denver last month. And so we encourage those to know that we'll be reaching out to you. This happens annually around fall time when we have allocations set. And so if you have any questions about it, or you want to reach out to Lincoln Elementary, they did a great job. Cache School District was very supportive of them participating in the conference, and they got to shake Val's hand when they got there. Any questions? Okay, folks. Listen, this is such a busy time of year. I just want you to know how grateful we are to try to squeeze this into. I know I got a lot of responses back when I sent emails out that many of you were headed to spring break. We're just getting back from spring break. We try to get this in right before end of level testing happens. All in all, we know it's a super busy time of year, so we really appreciate you coming here with us today. If you have questions about anything that came up today or want further information about anything that was shared with you today, please reach out to us. We'll either get you in contact with the person who presented about it, or we will search that answer out for you. Again, I just want to say that we do have, for the 26-27 school year, preliminary allocations from the Department of Education. We're currently working through vetting that data, and within the next number of days, we'll be sending that information out to you. Again, these are preliminary allocations. They're the Department of Education's best estimates based on the Census Bureau's information, their data they collected from 2 years ago. There will be changes from the preliminary allocations that we're going to share in the next number of days and the final allocations that will come out July 1. They're generally not substantial changes, but at least this will give you an idea of funding for next year so you can prepare those processes for needs assessments if you need to do them, planning, staffing, preparing through the summer. And then when we send those out, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We can walk through what happens with those pieces. Marilee, is there anything additional you would add about those preliminary allocations? That you're muted, Marilee. Sorry.
Sorry, the only thing I would add, if you are an expanding LEA, that is one that we are trying to give the best projected. So if you're expanding in this year, if you want to contact me or Max and kind of so we can work with you to project what your numbers will be, that would help us get this one moving too.
Thanks, Marilee. Okay, folks, those of us, if you have specific questions, we'll end the meeting. We'll let you carry on with your day and your week. If you have questions specific to your LEA or additional questioning about something that was shared today, those of us here at USBE, our team, we can hang around for a bit. And for the rest of you, thank you very much. Please have a great rest of the school year and enjoy this July weather we're having at the end of March. The skiing's terrible. I don't like it. All right, folks, have a great year.
Better than nothing, Max. It's better than nothing. We got to take what we can get.
Well, believe me, I'm still gonna go. I'm just gonna grumble about it.
Yeah, me too. Okay.